Michael. Thanks for having me.
Brenton Avdulla, he's riding well. He is on fire over there in Hong Kong. Been a busy show. One of our listeners says, why haven't we got Hutchie selections on the app? I'm not sure if it's there or not, but I can tell you Hutchie likes race 3, number 2 at Happy Valley into race 6, number 5. Good value. Race 3, number 2. Coming up next, it's the grey areas with Jason Adams and Georgie Ferrugia. Good luck backing the winner this midweek edition of Racing Pulse and your race day, your one-stop shop on RSN. We'll be back tomorrow from 8:30, massive Thursday, and it's a bit of a happy birthday to RSN and the Greater 3UZ show tomorrow. All the regulars looking ahead to Group 1 Saturday racing as well. We'll see you then from 8:30.
You're on the RSN Racing and Sport Network, right across Bendigo and Central Victoria, on 945 AM.
It's a new day, and I can feel the sun shining down on me. It's a new day, everything will be okay. I can feel this day, I can see this day, it's got it all.
Josh McGuinness from Country Racing here. It was a memorable first winner for Amber Hendry on Saturday. The Seymour-based trainer taking out the Wangaratta Cup with 5-year-old mare Harmonious Senora.
It's Harmonious Senora by over a length now. Torrenzino's running out of time, but charging at the end. Oh, I think too late. Harmonious Senora might have just snuck in from Torrenzino.
Country Racing celebrates one of its premier weekends on the calendar, with 5 country cups forming an incredible festival of racing across all corners of Victoria over the Labor Day long weekend. Eden Hope staged their traditional cup meeting on Saturday in the state's far west, whilst Hinnamunji Cup Day promises to be a cracker on the picnic circuit. Also taking centre stage this Saturday is Towong Turf Club, who hold their iconic cup meeting in the high country. Filled with historic tales and storied traditions, enjoy an afternoon of quality country racing on course at the picturesque backdrop of the Alpine region. Stony Creek celebrate their Cup Day on Sunday, with fantastic fashions on the field prizes across 11 categories. Echuca Cup Day headlines the long weekend of racing this Sunday, with more than 3,000 to 4,000 racegoers expected for an afternoon of fun-filled entertainment and high-class racing. The Piano Bar enclosure looks the place to be on course, with plenty of hospitality and marquee packages available. Country racing is as real as it gets. For tickets and more information, visit country.racing.com.
On RSN Racing and Sport, it's time for the grey areas with Jason Adams and George Ferrugia.
That kid was a human dynamo.
Are you sure you're talking about George?
George of the jungle, friend to you and me.
It's a tick after midday here on RSN 927. It's time for grey areas, and in the words of The Rock, finally, I'm back home here on grey areas. Jason Adams is my name. I'm joined by the great man himself, George Ferrugia. How are you, Georgie, on this Wednesday afternoon?
I'm very, very well, mate. I tell you, we did miss you. Smithy did an admirable job filling into you. He told us about some of your eating habits in regards to overcooking steaks and the like, which I believe got back to you. But no, it is good to have you back, mate. I hope you had a good little small break.
Sounded like the SMS traffic was pretty strong as well. Maybe I shouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah, it was. It was probably the question that we asked. I think a lot of people did like speaking about that subject. But now, look, we're back strong, mate. We've got a Horsham Cup. But we had some sort of not great news this morning about one of the finalists in the Horsham Cup.
Yeah, indeed. Big scratching out of that race. We'll get to that as the show goes on. But look, big week for a number of reasons. And most importantly, the footy's back, Georgie.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Flying up, mate. I am flying up. Now, I know you're working. You're off to Horsham, right?
No, I won't be at Horsham.
You're not? Oh, okay.
Pulled the pin on that.
Oh, okay. Are you a late flight up?
No hope.
No?
How much would flight speed to Sydney now?
At short notice.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
You're a Sydney man, Johnny. It'd be absolutely
Wish you told
outrageous.
me earlier, mate. We could have snuck in a seat for you and all that. But, yeah, look, obviously that's a bit tumultuous too with the cyclone ripping through southeast Queensland. So, yeah, hope everyone will be okay there. We've got some greyhound trainers in the area, obviously, that we know. And we've just come off a big carnival there, and hopefully everyone gets through it pretty safely.
And I think Albion Park have called off at least their greyhound meetings today and tomorrow. And I think the trots might be racing today.
Yeah, safe thing.
As far as I know.
Yeah, hopefully everyone gets through it okay, but it doesn't sound too promising at the moment.
Yep. For sure, and with the footy season coming back, we've got some shows upon us as well, Georgie. AFL 360's back. I'm pleased about that new format, which I don't mind.
Yes.
I understand you've got some other TV news for me that you've been unable to disclose in the lead up to today's show.
Well, I'm a little bit concerned because I think the two TV shows that I've asked you to at least sort of feast your eyes on, I don't think you've started watching them yet. And we talk about Landman and American Primeval. One's on Netflix and the other one is on Paramount Plus. We're going to go to Prime Video for you this time. There's a greyhound that a friend of mine...
A greyhound?
There's a TV show that a friend of mine put me onto. And it's sort of not really in our wheelhouse, but it was really addictive to watch. It was called Beast Wars. Now, my sons know about this guy called Mr. Beast, who's a big YouTube...
Oh, rings a bell. Yep.
Okay. Now, the premise of the show is that there's 1,000 people and the winner at the end wins $10 million. But how he gets to win it, or how he or she get to win it, is incredible, and it's a great thing into the human mind about what people can do for money. So, for instance, there's
talks all languages, as they say.
Oh, look, for instance, there's a whole row of people, and one person can say, and the host will say, I'll give you, he'll point to a person, $50,000 if you go home right now, but everyone in your row goes home as well. And, you know, they want them to be loyal because they're sitting there going home with nothing. And a bloke goes, yeah, I'll take the 50. But it's just really... Believe me, just in the way of human and the way the human brain works for cash, it's really addictive. So there's another one you need to put on your list. Beast Wars.
At the boxes, race 4 at sale. Market support has been with the reserve. Omega Penny goes in the box 1, $4.20 in the $2.60. Here's Paul Hammond.
Favourites the reserve, and Omega Penny for Barry Harper has won here in 24.94 from box 5. It's only had the 4 goes for 1 win. And once the red was scratched and it pops into box 1, punters are pretty keen to support Omega Penny here. They're almost secured away for race number 4, the Ed Fountain Removals. Just about set here. The green light is on. Reserve the favourite from the red box. They're ready. Set. Racing, Omega Penny came out fairly, showing pace in the centre was Jumbuck Bubbles going up toward the lead with Rockart on the inside, and then around the outer was Taylor's Chalk. Just off those, Omega Penny, a bit deeper on the track, then came Motivate, 2 lengths then to Poppy's Pell, and at the tail was Choice Moment. Coming up to the corner, Jumbuck Bubbles the leader, Dr. Gabriella out of the pack, sitting up on the inside, then Taylor's Chalk up the straight. Jumbuck Bubbles has got a kick, Jumbuck Bubbles wins it. Dr. Gabriella's second over Omega Penny, who flashed late, no luck early. Then Taylor's Chalk, further back was Motivate, Rockard with Poppy's Pell, and the time on the race is around 24.79. One for Ben Josky here, number 6 Jumbuck Bubbles, has got the prize by Hooked on Scotch from Aston Champagne. Second will be a photo. Now the splits were 5.29. 13.81, 24 and 79. So number 6 is officially the winner here for Ben Josky. 7 starts for a couple of wins now. 7 gets second, Dr. Gabriella. Standing by for third and fourth here. 9, the reserve, Omega Penny, is third after being cluttered up a little bit off the back straight. And 3 gets fourth. So the interim placings here, guys, are 6, 7, 9, 3. Jumbuck Bubbles, a win for Ben Josky, 6, 7, 9, 3 on the 4th race.
Righty-go, 6, 7, 9 and 3. When we go into the 5th at sale, of course, boys, it is the first leg of the quaddie. No, here they are. I'll just clear these away if you'd like me to. Number 6, Jumbuck Bubbles, $3.50 and $1.10 for. Dr. Gabriella paid $1.60. Number 9, Omega Penny at $1.90 and 3. Taylor's Chalk. The Quinella, $25, exacta 42, trifecta 80. First 4, $814 for 6, 7, 9 and 3. And the early quaddie at the sale dogs today, 5, 2, 3 and 6 pays $77. The running double, 3 and 6, has paid $5.10. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Johnny. A few text messages have rolled in. A couple Horsham Cup related, which we'll put on hold just for the time being. One from Jared Greyhound. Georgie getting mixed up with his words there. The next one, Money Talks, just says goodbye at my house. Yeah. Same at mine, mate. Don't worry about that.
I'm telling you, watch people, just listeners, please watch that show and let me know what you think. But I want you to watch it, Jace. But you've got 3 to watch. But the footy's starting now, so that's where your allegiances are going to lie. But if you get a spare second, mate, kick it off. We got another message from our man, Tim from Kilsyth here. G'day, boys. I know I normally come on and tell everyone how good Tim Zoo is, but the little champ got into early traffic but did chase well into second. That's Grand Racing, of course. He's alluding to his Horsham Cup Cup effort. But a dog I want to mention today is a dog that ran at Cannington on Friday called West on Sydney. Raced last Wednesday, actually. Won by 12 lengths and went within a pimple of running the quickest 600-metre ever. It was actually over the 5:20, a youngster by Tommy Shelby, and it went 29:31 at Cannington, which is unbelievable. I think there's only 2 greyhounds who have gone quicker in the hands of Chris Hulse and Linda Britton.
Time's still what they were before it's been reopened.
That's the only thing. Let's see after.
I don't know. I've got no idea.
I think they've been sort of comparable, but let's see after this Perth Cup series. Obviously, we've got 8 heats of that coming up on Saturday. But watch out for a greyhound called West on Sydney, spelled Sidney. He won by over 12 lengths. It was an unbelievable victory.
We walked into the Kingdom here at RSN just before, George, and as we walked in, Phil Towsell here at RSN's getting a couple of walls ready to have some awesome photos of the history of RSN and 3UZ, as I'm sure everyone's aware, celebrating 100 years of broadcasting this week. Do you have any memories that stand out from a radio point of view? Not sort of one that you would have heard elsewhere, but specifically here at RSN that hit your brain?
Oh, probably just generally how important 3UZ was growing up, because there was no Sky Channel at home. The only way we could hear my dad's dogs running all the way at Horsham or Ballarat was listening to the dulcet tones of Ronnie Hawkswell. So sitting around the stereo system at home, and it was, those huge stereo systems, because back then everything was bulky and it was joined to an LP thing, and just trying to tune it in to make sure we could hear it without crackling, and listening to 3UZ back then. It's the earliest memories I have of greyhound racing.
Probably an old valve radio.
Yeah, I think it was an old...
Could have been.
Yeah. I don't know what my mum bought back then, but it was awesome just to hear it. And obviously without the visuals, you're relying on great race callers like Ronnie Hawkswell, and certainly he was that. So that's my sort of background for sure. And I think the other one that was with the oldies was making sure that they tuned in on a Saturday morning to get the scratchings. I think is a big thing. Everyone got their pen ready, made sure they got the scratchings, because it's not as accessible as checking on your phone back in like it was. So
radio, you're right, but radios back in the day, a lot of young people don't know this, of course, and that's not their fault, but radios were a piece of furniture.
Yes.
When the first ones came out, they were, you had the big speakers on the side, the big valves in the back, and the dials on the front with all the radio stations' names, UZ, DB, KZ, whatever it was, XY. And they were a piece of furniture that took up, a bit of room in the lounge room.
John,
everyone used to sit around them. Hey?
My mum had a TV that had like shutters on it and a lock.
Yeah.
Why would you need to lock the screen?
And the shutters were there to keep the glare off the screen from coming in the windows.
I mean, apart from trying to keep Jason away from his Married at First Sight addiction, I mean, I wouldn't understand why you'd need to.
I think I know why.
Lock it.
I've heard what you like with the kebab in your hand at home.
Lock a TV. No, I just don't understand why. So, so for me, I think Jace, that's the big one. Not sure. What about you? I mean, you would have been listening to RSN as a youngster coming through the ranks.
Yeah, growing up, I mean, having a kick with the old man at the park and then get back in the car to listen to the race or something like that, the late scratching tone, whatever it might be. But I guess the ones that are really deep in my brain is when I first started to get a love for racing, and particularly greyhound racing, when I was 18, 19. I was doing a course at a time, and it was on Thursdays, I reckon, Georgie, where I just put the earphones in. There'd still be action happening in the classroom. One earphone in, I'm listening to yourself, Nadia Horn and Marg Long.
Yeah.
And that was when I was just so high on greyhound racing that it was just a non-negotiable for me to listen to that every Thursday.
Yeah, obviously Nadia was a big part of RSN back then, and obviously I think we had Rob Tester for a while as well coming into the studio, who was a bit of a character as well. So
there's a photo of a young Robbie Tester out in the hallway.
Oh, I got to see.
Tell you what, mate, he looks like Nick Dacos.
Nick Dacos.
He looks very sharp as a young man.
Wow. Well, there you
Still
go.
does now.
A few people have said Jerry Lewis too.
That he looks like him.
A young Jerry Lewis.
He'd love that as a Bomber supporter, that he looks like a Collingwood player. Just a quick SMS coming through, and I bloody agree with this one. Jason, if there's one show you have to watch, it's Mr. In Between. It is a must-watch, mate. You won't be disappointed. One of the great Australian TV shows is Mr. In Between. So there's 4, Jace, now. This is a list piling up. We'll get to 10 by probably mid-year, and we'll see. We'll come back and regroup.
Before we move on from these RSN memories, I remember as well, being the age that I was, going to Sandown in 2012 for my first Melbourne Cup night. Again, had a headphone in my ear listening to Carnival and yourself dominating Dapto. You remember those days?
We were doing Dapto, yeah. We were doing Dapto dogs.
You were the king of Dapto back in those days.
We were going okay. Me and Riley Phelan started to do Saturday mornings as well for a little while there, and we were trying to tip winners at Richmond at 9:30
good luck.
in the morning.
Good luck.
So, anyway.
A couple of text messages have rolled in as well. I grew up listening to 3UZ, didn't realise there were other stations. I think a lot of people would be in the same boat. One here, maybe for you, Johnny. G'day, 3UZ memory for me. This is from Anthony in Tassie. My grandmother waking me up so we could listen to Crisp in the steeple over in England. Nah.
Well, he hasn't got a year there, has he?
No.
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 Finslet,
Wow.
no.
So we
Finslet,
did
no.
take overseas broadcasts flying.
Oh, when there was, even now, even still, for our audience, if there's something big happening in Dubai, it was only a couple of weeks ago, or Hong Kong, or a race of interest where an Australian horse is hoping to get the chocolates, we'll, even if it's 4:00 in the morning, we'll make sure it gets to air.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so any other memories you have, particularly from a Graham point of view here on RSN, or be it 3UZ, make sure you do get involved, 0416 90 50 52. Georgia, let's move on to the racing at the forefront this week. And, of course, the Horsham Cup heats were ran last Friday night. One greyhound who was very impressive was Hotel Whiskey One, but the news is broken this morning that he won't be taking his place in the final.
Yeah, spoke to trainer Anthony Azzopardi this morning. He gave me a call, a groin injury, which is going to keep him out for a couple of weeks. He's been racing so well at the moment, Jason, that I think Anthony he certainly wasn't going to go around this Friday, but he wants to err on the side of caution. He's got a greyhound who, if you think about it, Jason, he's probably the fastest one-turn dog in the country at the moment. He would be right up in the top 3 at least. I know people don't forget, he led both the Temlee and the semi-final of an Australian Cup against probably the best dogs in the country. It's just that last 50 metres at the Meadows that saw him out. And Smithy and I spoke about it last week. I thought he was going to be unbeatable last week because that one turn, I know Horsham is a long straight, but once he zips away and gets clear, Jason, I think he's probably at his absolute peak at the moment. And the disappointing part, I'm only a small part of it. I don't own the greyhound. I feel for connections, but I'm disappointed that he's not in because I was really going to have a fair crack at him from a betting point of view. I thought he was not unbeatable. That's probably a silly word, but I thought he'd be very, very hard to beat in the Horsham Cup. What are your thoughts in the race if he was still in?
Clearly he's probably better drawn this week than what he was last week, going from box 1 to box 5, knowing the way that he races, how he wants to be in that middle part of the track. We've had a text message come in from his owner, Matty V, who understandably is disappointed, but obviously in the dog's best interest is out of the race. But the thing that drew my eyes most to his text message is just, Jason, let's just talk darts now, which is a great thing to do. The Cup itself, now that he's out, it's a race to me on face value. I didn't see the heats inside out, but there seems to be a lack of early speed in this, so whoever begins well is going to be really important.
Yeah, we spoke last week, Smithy and I, about Leo Bale's last 5 or 6 weeks of racing. He's just been going so enormously well. He's drawn box 8, which is going to be a little of a challenge, but clearly with Hotel Whiskey One out and the slowness of Zipping Hopkins out of the box, Tim Zoo's going to be really hard to keep out here, isn't he? And I think he was vying for favouritism with Hotel Whiskey One. He was already going to be fairly well supported. There doesn't seem to be an unbelievable amount of speed drawn underneath him, Jason. No. He's just, if he's still racing at the level he did, as we've seen in the Australian Cup, and he was a good run in his heat, he's got to be the greyhound to beat here, clearly.
Are we not respecting Flying Zulu as much as what we should be?
Oh, no, I think we always respect Flying Zulu. The box draw doesn't play into his hands, but you're right, Jason. It's not an Australian Cup where he had to come from box 7 and 4, 5 and 6 had incredible speed, and we couldn't find a way where he was going to find a good enough position. In this Horsham Cup, we can probably find a way that he's going to come into a nice enough position, barring he keeps away from Leo Bale, who does show some speed. Zipping Kai's heat win was fantastic, breaking 27 seconds as well, Jason. So it certainly opened up the race because I thought Hotel Whiskey One, I know he wasn't going to start $1.80, but I thought he'd be an even money chance. I thought he would be incredibly hard to beat.
Yeah, we'll speak more about it on Friday as we build up to that Horsham Cup on Friday night. Text message from Tim from Kilsyth. There's a quicker runner-up in the Horsham heats now get a run. So, George, I think, was there 5 heats of the Horsham Cup last Friday night. So the fastest 3 runner-ups were the ones who progressed to the final. Then the fourth of them would be Extradited, who's the first reserve. Given the news of scratching, pending there's no more scratchings, he will go in and jump from box number 5 and take the place of Hotel Whiskey 1.
Yeah, so look, again, it's just sort of cruel the race a little bit. I see that the nominations... that's the other thing Smithy and I spoke about last week, whether you have this race on a Friday night at Horsham. The noms are a little bit low. I think they closed about an hour ago. I'm not sure if they were extended. But there are a couple of feature race finals on the program as well.
Yeah, there's a stack of advertised events, which, I mean, goes a long way to helping you fill a car. There's 63 noms plus the 4 finals. Be a full meeting up there. No
Absolutely.
doubt about it. So, yeah, it's a valid question every year, but the racing department there at GRV has done a great job to ensure that we do get a full card there at Horsham on Friday night. Yesterday at Hillsville, we saw running of the Emerald in the heats. Tell you what, the racing was as hot as the sun on the back of my neck. I was scorching.
You didn't have an umbrella over
Corey
you, mate,
Smith
or?
and I, we had this presentation desk in front of us. I mean, Smithy could have cooked his well-done steak. He put our arms on. It was dead set scorching, but the action was hot on the track as well. Serial Sticker, Sheasel, best on ground from what we saw in the heats yesterday.
Look, I when it comes to the straight track racing, I'm not as much of a fan as it is obviously what James Vandermaat is, and so I defer to him. And for him to come out and say Serial Sticker was probably one of the most impressive runs he's seen up the straight at Hillsville, definitely pulls some weight. 16.25, which obviously I know is very, very fast. Backed it up, probably the writing was on the wall the week before, 22.21 at Geelong. I mean, this greyhound who started its career not losing a race for its first start and then ran 7th in the Hillsville Cup. That was its first defeat. It's clearly got lots of ability, but I did want to mention Sheasel too, 16.27. Another greyhound, Jason, who has not missed a place, listen to this, since September. Has not missed a place since September, and it's had about 20 or 22 starts. So credit to Mario Briganti and the way he's kept this greyhound, and his consistency has been incredible. Big lug greyhound, 37 kilos, and he was awesome last night too. So just for people that don't know, even if you did win a heat, if you weren't one of the 8 fastest greyhounds, you don't get in the final. I kind of like that little
You like the format?
Yeah, I do like that sort of difference.
All right, at the boxes for race 5 at Sale, in terms of the popular way there, it is the reserve yet again, number 10, who's $2.10. Let's get the happy for the 5th there at Sale.
Okay, Jason, the favourite, as you alluded to, is Marjorie Maud. It's only lightly raced, gets a start from box 7 here, 2 wins from 10 for Billy Stockdale. Does a marvellous job with his team, and it is a 2.20 and the clear favourite to win the first leg of the quaddie, the reserve. Okay, they're moving in, getting set. Best of luck with your quaddies here today in bright sunshine. Ranford's Family Butcher is the 5th on the card. The green light on. Favourite in box 7, the reserve. Set. Racing. Marjorie Maud, worse than midfield away, showing good pace. Dr. Ann goes toward the lead. Try to boot up was Ryan Star. Dr. Ann, Ryan Star, the leaders. Then El Karazu going up on the outside. Marjorie Maud's dropped on the fence into 4th. Then came Apicia. Well back was Speedy Bear with Lady Montana and Jumbuck Star. Up to the home corner. Ryan Star, the leader. 2.5. Dr. Ann is trying hard, but it's Ryan Star. Ryan Star winning it from Dr. Ann and El Karaz 3rd. Marjorie Maud's got 4th. And further back was Jumbuck Star, Lady Montana, Apicia and Speedy Bear, and the run is the best so far, 24.66. Number 4 for Kerry Minnie, that's a double for the kennel. Ryan Star saluting, 5.22, 13.77, a pretty good effort for that class, 24.66. Number 4 will be first. 6, Dr. Ann was always on the pace, as 2 was number 1, Alcaraz. So it'll be 4, 6 and 1 here. And the time is 24.66. Just standing by for these. Officially, the winner by Koblenz from Starina, double for the Mini Kennel, the Scotland Syndicate, and 3 wins from 22 starts now for that greyhound. 6, Dr. Ann, 2nd for the McMahon Kennel. 1, Alcaraz is 3rd, and officially 4th was the favourite, number 10, Marjorie Maud. 4, 6, 1, 10, the placings. First leg of the quaddie, it was 3 1/4 by neck. Race time, 24.66.
Number 4, Ryan Star, $7.80 and $1.80. 6, Dr. Ann, $1.40. 1, Alcatraz, or Alcaraz, I should say. at a $2.60 return. And the favourite, Marjorie Maud, number 10 into fourth, 46110. Quinella, $9, Exacta, $25. Trifecta, $44. And the first four, $327. The running double, 6 and 4, has paid $31.
Thanks, Johnny. We're speaking about the Emerald and, of course, those races that we ran yesterday, 4-dog fields. As Georgie said, the fastest 8 of them progressed to the final, which we run this Sunday, and we'll speak more about that on Friday. Text messages come in, one from Tommy from Ashburton, Georgie, who you wanted to highlight. Might ring a bell for some listeners out there of RSN.
Which one's that? The
John,
Stan Cash.
Yeah,
Stan
John,
Cash.
can you roll the Stan Cash ad, Essendon and
What on earth
Maidstone?
is that?
Tommy from Ashburton.
I haven't got access to it, Tommy, unfortunately for you, mate.
Stan Cash was probably the JB Hi-Fi of its time back in the 80s. Is that a fair assumption? Probably a little bit like that. Sell
Sells a
white
shop.
goods and and at discounted prices. My mum and dad loved going there with buying some of their white goods for sure. Another memory here, we just heard from Paul Hammond blowing and huffing and puffing, calling dogs at Wangaratta as he had to run upstairs from the betting ring, putting his bets on.
You listening, Paul?
I think he's
27,
fantastic, absolutely. So we like that one as well. Crisp, that great horse that we spoke about earlier, circa 1973, just a little bit before your time, John.
1973, Gala Supreme won the Melbourne Cup.
There you go. So we're getting some
The
nice...
first year I got into trouble for running a book at school. I was 11.
That's why we love you, mate. Some
Running
of
a
your
book
stories.
at school.
Yeah.
What on?
The Melbourne Cup.
You're a
I
star.
was in year 7, 11 years old, and I was the man to come to for a bet.
My grade 6 teacher, Mr. Young, used to absolutely love me giving him tips because my dad handled greyhounds for a guy, and he used to win a fair few races at Olympic Park. So I was always ducks of the class, mate, even though I didn't deserve it. Jace,
All right.
what do we got?
What
We've got
else?
plenty
All
coming
right, so
through.
local racing, as we mentioned, Horsham Cup Friday night, the Emerald at Hillsville on Sunday. But some other Victorian stars have headed over to Perth, George.
Yeah, they have. And you know what? We've drawn quite well in a couple of these races.
Not your boy, Smooth Plane.
No, he's probably the only one. But I'll be honest, we've got a couple of really nice draws, like Mapunga Tully's drawn box 1. I think Vincent Bale's got box 1 as well. Deadly Avengers drawn pretty well in box 3 in the last heat. So we've got a couple of live chances there. And look, there's some good greyhounds in WA at the moment, but I think it'll be highly Victorian flavoured this final from what we can see. You're right, Smooth Plane drawn box 8 is a little bit of a worry. So 8 heats there. We were speaking off air about the I know it's hard to get across because of the time difference, but some of these races are after midnight, Jace. So again, there are smarter people than me on higher pay grades than me. Is there a way that we can get around this where it might be more of a twilight meeting, or is it something that can't happen because Ascot's on a Saturday? Do we bring it to a Friday night so it gets and push it forward a little bit for the Eastern Seaboard, or is WA just saying, you know what, it's in prime time for us and that's what we're happy with?
Well, the first race for the meeting on Saturday night's after 10 p.m. First
10:30.
Perth Cup heat, 11:30. Last race is just before 2 o'clock in the morning. Personally, it'd have to be a graveyard from a turnover point of view. So they wouldn't have a lot of flexibility, given they can't swap with another jurisdiction because the time difference is so significant.
Yeah.
They can't come back earlier on because it's so competitive on a Saturday. I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
Whether you move them to a Thursday night, potentially, and wheel and deal with another state to try and swap a meeting, get a good time slot from that point of view. Yeah, of course, they'd have to give up running in the afternoon and do that. However, I assume a lot of their bread is buttered, courtesy of the Eastern Seaboard. So
because they do move the meeting when we're dealing with the nationals, the qualifiers, don't they? Because they're all within an hour of each other. And I know it could be, a couple of other logistical problems for this, but it's just a shame that there's some races that are going to be after midnight, only because I just think a lot of Victorians and people from New South Wales and Queensland just won't be up to watch it. So, and I know Cannington try to do a good job with some of their feature races and putting them on earlier in the program. I don't think the Perth Cup will be race 10 next week at a guess. I think it's usually an earlier race where it's on at an okay time, but yeah, it's just a shame that we don't get to see some of these. Well, you can get to see them, but
well,
you
you
just gotta stay
can,
up.
but
yeah.
not conducive to the success, at least from a revenue point of view, but conversation for another day when we learn a bit more. We're building up quickly to the launching pad at Sandown, George. We got heats on the 3rd of April, which are a month away, but there's a fair bit to happen in between, given we know the format of the series, 1 to 6 wins, no more than 30 starts. It's built around youngsters coming through the ranks, and we saw a trial on Monday night from one that came from New South Wales in the hands of Peter Lagogiani that went around like a rocket.
Yeah, she's that girl is her name. She's a youngster by Hooked on Scotch who's, I believe, had about 6 starts for 5 wins. Some of her wins at Gosford and Wentworth Park have come in very fast time. But I just get the feeling that even Peter Lagogiani, when I spoke to him, was a little bit surprised that she went even that fast. It was the fastest of the whole meeting. There's a young greyhound with a very big rap called University from Brooke and Jamie Ennis's kennel. They've got a really nice team at the moment. He went 29.39, I think. So for her to go 25, Jace, I think they would go back with a lot of confidence.
And speaking of the Ennis camp, they'll have Tribeca as the number 1 contender going into that launching pad series at Sandown coming up over the next month. Speaking of Sandown, I looked through the card there tomorrow night, George. I thought it was fair until I got to the 700-metre race and thought that's a good sign. In the free-for-all, strong. And then in the following race, a mixed 4-5, Warm Cockles, who's not in the free-for-all, just a quirk of the system, but we know all about that.
Yeah, and look, there's a couple of tips that we want to mention. Race 7, number 6, Reiterate, is a greyhound that I want to talk about. He's almost like that football player who's on his last year of a contract, and if he doesn't perform, he's out. And from a betting point of view, this is where Reiterate is. I mean,
he's a risk. He's got all the ability in the world.
And he absolutely finds his race. I mean, he's been racing against the likes of Lanfranco, Orley Bale, Bomb Luca the last couple of starts. There's some handy greyhounds here, but he should be winning this race, Jason. So race 7, number 6, I'm willing to have a play. Last chance. Race 8, number 2, Lakeview Emily. Outstanding last week. 29.54 at the Meadows. We're going to double dip here. Race 9, number 8, Reality Best, I think is just the best greyhound in the race, can handle the wide draw and beat these. And I do like Warm Cockles. Again, from box 8, we've spoken about box 8 being a hoodoo at Sandown, but I think that'll be hard to beat as well. So they're my 4 for Thursday night.
And just before we wrap the show up, we've got a text message coming. Why does George keep saying, me and Smithy, me and Smithy, me and Smithy, me and Smithy? Is he trying to move the great patch on?
Well, probably because we had Smithy on last week, and I know who wrote that, so that's why, moron. Yeah, that would make sense. So maybe the Smithy stuff will stop now that we got Jason.
Tell you what, I haven't spoken to him yet, but he might be back on Friday joining me as Georgie jet sets off to Sydney, where he holds up his Hawthorn poster and meets my
Sorry, we'll go the other way.
mighty Swannies. So game on, my friend.
All right, so am I going to ring you from Sydney? What's happening next
Yeah, we'll
Friday?
get you on the show Friday.
Perfect, mate.
Make sure you're sober after midday, okay?
Absolutely, mate.
Thanks, Johnny. We'll be back on Friday afternoon.
Good on you guys. Look forward to it. Thank you very much. We'll be back with Paul Hammond and a preview of the rest of the meeting at Sale next.
Hong Kong is racing tonight.
Racing.
That's right, they're racing tonight at Happy Valley. You can follow the star Aussie trainers and riders like David Hayes. And if you bet on Hong Kong with the tab, you're diving into Hong Kong's massive world pools, known for stable odds and smoother payouts. Catch all the action on Sky Racing and streaming services. Hong Kong racing tonight. Presented by Hong Kong Jockey Club. Is this a bet you really want to make? For free and confidential support, visit gamblershelp.com.au.
This is 3UZ in Victoria.
This is Sean Cosgrove, remembering the days of the old 3UZ. John Vertigan.
What was the best advice you ever got given along the way as a young announcer?
Well, it was given to me by John McMahon, who was the program director at 3UZ at the time. And he said, son, the best ad-lib is a written ad-lib. He said, write everything down.
3UZ Sports Scoreboard. It's 17 3/4 past 3. Now to the 3UZ studio at the TAB Control Centre.
From 3UZ to RSN Racing and Sport. Happy 100th birthday.
Quality yearlings coupled with the country's best incentive.